Would you like to order more coffee? Dr. Imani Williams' voice cut through the hum of the Glassbox Cafe, her smile sharp as she faced her husband, Mark Thompson, and his mistress, Chloe Sanders. You'll need it, Mark, because you've lost everything. Her words landed like a hammer, her eyes cold, unyielding. Imani, a brilliant black architect, had built their empire, Thompson Williams with their visionary designs. Mark, her charming white husband, sold her genius but envied it. Chloe, the ambitious designer, stole Imani's dreams for her own. In this glass-walled stage, Imani wasn't a betrayed wife. She was a force, dismantling their deceit with precision. Share your thoughts, time, and place of reading in the comments below. The champagne stung Imani Williams' throat, sharp and cold, as she tilted the flute to her lips. Her smile held steady, a practiced curve, as cameras flashed around her and Mark Thompson, her husband, at the Chicago Annual Architecture Awards. Their fingers entwined, his grip firm, hers deliberate, while the crowd buzzed with praise for Thompson Williams, their crowned firm of the year. Her navy gown clung to her frame, silk whispering against her skin. But it was the weight of his arm around her waist that felt like a blueprint drawn in haste, its lines already fraying. You know, without your brain, I'd just be a suit with a smile, Mark murmured, his breath warm against her ear, his voice laced with charm that didn't reach his eyes. Imani's lips twitched upward, but her chest tightened. She knew that tone, half compliment, half confession. He needed her genius, her designs that turned glass and steel into poetry to keep their empire standing. But lately his words carried an edge, like a draftsman's pencil pressed too hard, threatening to tear the page. She let her gaze drift across the ballroom, catching the glint of chandeliers, the clink of glasses, the low hum of ambition. Her mind, trained to spot flaws in any structure, snagged on the details. Mark's late-night meetings, his sudden praise for Chloe Sanders. The young interior designer with a sharp eye and sharper ambition. Chloe gets our vision, he'd said at last week's board meeting, his hand lingering too long on her portfolio. Imani had nodded then, her face a mask, but the memory now coiled in her gut like rebar left to rust. Back at their penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, the air turned heavy, the city's skyline a silent witness beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Mark shed his tuxedo jacket, his phone already in hand, thumbs dancing across the screen. Just a few emails, babe, he said, not looking up, his voice casual as a tossed blueprint. Imani stood by the window, her reflection a ghost against the dark water, her fingers tracing the edge of her wineglass. The penthouse, her design, every angle a testament to her precision, felt like a cage tonight. You've been distant, she said, her voice low, testing the air. Mark's eyes flicked up, then back to his phone. Work's insane. You know how it is. Her jaw tightened, a faint pulse at her temple. She wanted to press, to demand, but the architect in her held back, calculating. Instead, she retreated to her home office, the click of her heels on the hardwood a metronome to her thoughts. Sleep wouldn't come, not with that pulse in her veins, that instinct screaming something was wrong. She opened her laptop, the screen's blue glow harsh against the dark, and pulled up the 3D renderings for the boutique hotel project Mark had handed to Chloe. Her breath caught. There, in the virtual lobby, was a double helix staircase, a ribbon of steel and glass suspended midair, lit by delicate LED threads. It wasn't just a design, it was hers. A sketch from her private notebook, shared with Mark one rainy night years ago, when they'd lain in bed dreaming of their forever home. Her fingers froze on the trackpad, her heart a hammer against her ribs. This wasn't a mistake. This was theft, not just of her work, but of her trust, her dreams, her soul. She clicked the laptop shut, the sound sharp as a guillotine in the silent room. No tears came. Her eyes burned, but they stayed dry, her mind racing like a draftsman plotting a new foundation. He didn't just betray me, he's stealing my essence, handing it to her like a cheap trinket. Her fingers curled into fists, nails biting her palms. She saw it now, the hairline crack in their marriage, their business, their life. It wasn't just Chloe's ambition or Mark's wandering eyes. It was his envy, his need to claim what was hers to prove he was more than a shadow in her light. Imani stood, her silhouette sharp against the window's reflection. The city glittered below, its towers her creations, her legacy. She'd built this life, this empire with every late night, every precise line. And now Mark thought he could dismantle it, piece by piece, and give it to someone else. Her breath steadied, slow and deliberate, like the first stroke of a pen on a blank page. He's underestimated me, she thought, her pulse no longer frantic but cold, resolute. This isn't a collapse. It's a controlled demolition. She turned from the window, her steps silent now, purposeful. The crack was there, jagged and raw, but she was an architect. She knew how to rebuild from ruins, and she would, starting with him. Imani's office was a fortress of shadows, the only light a cold blue glow from her laptop screen. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling not with fear but with a fury so sharp it felt like a blade. The memory of the stolen staircase burned in her mind. Her design, her dream, now a trophy in Chloe's hands, gifted by Mark's betrayal. She pushed the hurt down, deep where it couldn't cloud her. An architect didn't weep over a flawed foundation. She assessed, planned, and rebuilt. Her breath came slow, deliberate, as she opened a new file, naming it with a whisper of intent. Project Restructure. Her pulse thrummed, a rhythm of resolve. She remembered Mark's face years ago at her first solo exhibition, his smile tight as critics praised her work over his charm. "You're the genius," he'd said, but his eyes had flickered with something darker. Envy, maybe, or fear of being outshone. That flicker was a crack, ignored too long, now splitting wide. She wouldn't confront him, not yet. Rage was a poor draftsman. She needed precision. Her fingers flew, listing assets first. Real estate, the penthouse, the lake house, their office downtown. Company shares, 60% hers, 40 his, per their prenup. Intellectual property, her designs, her lifeblood, protected by Illinois law, but only if she could prove ownership. Her jaw clenched, teeth grinding. He thought he could steal my soul and sell it. She opened the company server, her login credentials a quiet rebellion. The system blinked, warning of an audit trail. Her heart skipped. Someone could trace her. She exhaled, steadying her hands. Risk was part of the design. Emails loaded, stark and damning. Mark to Chloe, 2:17 a.m. Take this sketch, develop it. It's gold. Attached was her staircase, her handwritten notes scanned and sent like a lover's gift. Another email, buried in a thread. Consulting fee, $10,000 wired to CS Designs. Imani's lips curled, a bitter smirk. CS Designs, Chloe's shell company, funding her sleek River North apartment. The numbers didn't lie, but they cut deeper than any whispered affair. He's not just cheating, he's profiting off my mind. She copied the files to a private server, her movements swift, silent, like laying rebar in the dark. Her phone buzzed, a late-night call from her old friend Nia, a lawyer who'd seen her through college heartbreaks. Imani hesitated, then answered, her voice low. "Nia, I found something. It's bad." "Talk to me," Nia said, her tone soft but firm, a lifeline in the dark. "He's stealing my designs, giving them to her." Imani's throat tightened, the words acid. "It's not just betrayal, it's theft." Nia's silence was heavy then. "You're not alone, Imani, but don't let this break you. Plan it out. You're smarter than him." Imani nodded, though Nia couldn't see. "I'm not breaking, I'm building." She hung up, her resolve hardening like concrete. She dialed Olivia Vance, Chicago's sharpest IP lawyer, leaving a coded voicemail. "I need a consultation, urgent. It's about protecting my work." Olivia's reply came at dawn, crisp and promising. "Meet me tomorrow. Bring everything." Imani leaned back, her chair creaking in the quiet. She opened their prenup, her eyes scanning to clause 37B, a line she'd insisted on years ago. Any ethical or financial misconduct harming the firm's reputation or assets triggers immediate suspension of partner privileges, pending board review. Mark had laughed, called it paranoid. Now it was her weapon. Her fingers traced the paper, The ink a vow she'd kept to herself. A noise. Mark's footsteps in the hall. Her heart lurched, but she closed the laptop, the screen's light fading like a doused flame. He knocked, voice muffled. Imani, you up? She didn't answer, her silence a wall. He lingered, then retreated, his steps fading. She pictured him in their bed, oblivious, thinking her quiet was exhaustion, not strategy. He doesn't see the blueprint, she thought, her nails digging into her palms. He doesn't know I'm redesigning his ruin. She stood, her reflection faint in the office window. The city's skyline a map of her triumphs. Chloe's ambition, Mark's envy, they were flaws in a structure she'd trusted too long. Now she'd reinforce it, starting with the truth. Her fingers twitched, itching to draw, to plan, to destroy with the same precision she used to create. This wasn't a divorce. It was a takeover, and she was the architect of its every line. Imani's pulse beat like a metronome, steady but quick, as she stood before her closet, the navy pantsuit hanging like armor. Her fingers grazed the tailored wool, its texture grounding her. She hadn't slept, not after unearthing Mark's betrayal, but her eyes were clear, her mind a steel frame. The penthouse was silent, Mark still asleep, unaware of the trap she was drafting. She saw it now, a confrontation, not in their home where he could twist words, but in public, where his charm would falter and her precision would shine. The glass box, that sleek all-glass cafe where Chicago's design elite gathered, was perfect. She knew Mark and Chloe met there. Their work lunches, a flimsy cover. Her lips pressed tight, a flicker of pain beneath her resolve. They think they're building something. I'll show them a collapse. She sat at her desk, the city's dawn light casting sharp angles across her face. Her fingers danced over her laptop, crafting an email to her assistant, CC'd to Mark. Reserve a quiet table at the glass box, 3 p.m. Friday. Meeting with Sterling Group reps for their new skyscraper. Confidentiality required. Her heart thudded as she hit send, the lie a calculated lure. Sterling Group was a whale in real estate. Mark's ego would drag him there, Chloe in tow to claim a piece of the deal he hadn't earned. She leaned back, her breath shallow, picturing their faces when she'd unveil her hand. A memory stabbed her. Rain pattering their old apartment's window, her sketching the double helix staircase while Mark watched, his eyes soft then. That's our future, she'd said, sharing her soul's work. Now that intimacy was a wound, raw and pulsing, her fingers curled, nails biting her palms. He gave her my heart's design. She shoved the thought down, her jaw tight, and stood to dress. The pantsuit hugged her frame, its clean lines a declaration of control. She tied her hair back, each twist deliberate, her reflection in the mirror not a scorned wife, but a general before battle. Her phone buzzed, Nia checking in. You sure about this, Imani? Her friend's voice crackled, laced with worry. I'm not just sure, Imani said, her voice low, steel. I'm certain, Nia sighed. You're a force, but don't let this consume you. You're more than his betrayal. Imani's throat tightened, but she swallowed it. I'm not consumed, I'm creating. She hung up, her fingers trembling as she grabbed her bag. Chloe wasn't just a mistress. She was a thief with ambition, fed by Mark's promises of power. Imani had overheard them once. Chloe's voice sharp in a meeting. I want my name on this, Mark. He'd nodded, too eager, his hand brushing hers. The memory burned, but Imani channeled it, her mind drafting the scene at the glass box like a blueprint for justice. She drove through Chicago's morning bustle, the skyline a reminder of her triumphs. Towers she'd shaped, dreams she'd built. Her hands gripped the wheel, knuckles pale. She wasn't afraid, but adrenaline surged, sharp as a draftsman's pen. The cafe loomed ahead, its glass walls gleaming like a transparent stage. She parked, her heels clicking on the pavement, each step a hammer striking steel. This is my design, she thought, her pulse a drumbeat. They'll see it crumble. Inside her bag, a slim envelope held Olivia's legal notice. Clause 37B, the emails, the proof of theft. Her fingers brushed it, a talisman of her power. She pictured Mark's smile faltering, Chloe's confidence cracking. But beneath her resolve, a whisper lingered. What if he begs? What if he tries to explain? Her chest tightened, a hairline fracture in her armor. She shook it off, straightening her spine. No apologies can rebuild what he broke. She stepped toward the cafe's entrance, the glass door catching her reflection. A woman not of vengeance, but of purpose. Her hand rested on the handle, cool against her skin. The trap was set, the lines drawn. Mark and Chloe thought they were players in her world. Today she'd show them they were only flaws in her design, soon to be erased. Imani pushed through the glass door of the glass box, the chime a sharp note slicing the hum of conversation. Afternoon light poured through the transparent walls, casting her shadow long and deliberate across the polished, concrete floor. Her eyes found them instantly, Mark and Chloe, heads bent over a tablet in the corner, their closeness a blueprint of deceit. Mark's laugh faltered as he spotted her, his coffee cup pausing midair. Chloe's gaze darted up, her cheeks flushing, a flicker of guilt in her wide eyes. Amani's heart thudded, not with fear but with the cold clarity of a plan snapping into place. Her lips curved into a smile, polite, lethal, as she approached, each step a measured beat. "Mark, Chloe," she said, her voice smooth as glass, pausing just long enough for their unease to settle. "Would you like to order more coffee?" Mark's cup clinked against the saucer, his fingers unsteady. "Imani, what are you doing here?" His voice was too bright, a salesman's pitch cracking at the edges. "We're just going over the hotel project. You know Chloe, right?" Chloe nodded, her smile tight, her hands gripping the tablet like a shield. Imani's gaze flicked to it, knowing her stolen staircase was glowing on that screen. Her stomach twisted, but she kept her face serene, a mask honed by years of boardroom battles. "They think I'm blind." She raised a hand, cutting off Mark's stammered explanation, her smile unwavering but her eyes cold as steel. "You'll need it," she said, her voice dropping, each word a brick laid in a collapsing wall. "Because I just came from a meeting with the board's legal counsel. I've invoked Clause 37B of our partnership agreement. Ethical misconduct, your access to the firm, its accounts, and all intellectual property is suspended, effective immediately." Mark choked, coffee splattering across the table, his cough ragged. Chloe froze, her tablet slipping, clattering softly against the chair. The cafe's chatter dimmed, heads turning, eyes prying. Imani stood tall, her pantsuit a navy fortress, her pulse steady despite the storm in her chest. "This is my design." She reached into her bag, her fingers brushing the envelope. Olivia's legal notice, heavy with proof. She slid it across the table, deliberate, letting it rest beside the spilled coffee, its edges soaking brown. "For you," she said to Mark, her tone clipped, final. "The originals with your lawyer. Good afternoon." Mark's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. "Imani, wait. What the hell is this?" His voice cracked, desperation leaking through. His eyes, once warm, now pleaded, but she saw the truth in them. Guilt, not love. Her skin burned under his touch, a memory of their old intimacy twisting like a knife. She pulled free, her wrist stinging, her voice low. "Don't. You know exactly what this is." Chloe's voice broke the silence, small, trembling. "Imani, I thought it was his idea." Her words were a flimsy scaffold, collapsing under scrutiny. Imani's gaze flicked to her, sharp, unyielding. "You wanted my place, but you'll never have my vision." "You chose the wrong partner," Imani said, her words slicing clean. She turned, her heels clicking, the chime of the door ringing as she stepped into the sunlight. The air hit her face, cool and sharp, and she inhaled deeply, her chest expanding. No tears, no triumph, just the quiet certainty of a structure dismantled with precision. "I didn't break. I rebuilt." Behind her, she heard Mark's voice, muffled, frantic, calling her name. She didn't look back. Her fingers curled around her car keys, the metal biting her palm. The city stretched before her, its skyline her creation, each tower a testament to her strength. But beneath her calm, a whisper lingered. What if he fights? What if he drags this out? Her jaw tightened, pushing the doubt away. She'd planned for this. Every angle calculated, every beam reinforced. Mark thought he could steal her foundation. Now he'd learn it was unshakable. She slid into her car, the engine's hum a low promise. The envelope's weight was gone, but its power lingered, a blueprint for justice. As she pulled away, the glass box faded in her rear view, its transparency mocking the secrets it had held. Imani's lips twitched, not a smile but a resolve. The next move was hers and she was ready to build. Imani's heels echoed in the empty penthouse. Each step a hammer driving nails into a new foundation. The city's skyline glittered beyond the windows, but its beauty felt distant, like a blueprint she'd drawn for someone else. Her phone vibrated, Mark's name flashing, 6 missed calls, a string of texts pleading for a talk. Her thumb hovered, then swiped them away, her jaw tight. He doesn't get to rewrite this. The air smelled faintly of his cologne, a ghost she'd soon erase. She sank into her office chair, the leather cool against her skin, and let her pulse slow, her mind sharpening like a draftsman's pen. Her phone buzzed again. Not Mark, but Nia. "You okay?" Her friend's voice was soft, a tether in the storm. Imani exhaled, her fingers tracing the desk's edge. "I'm not okay. I'm furious, but I'm not breaking." "You don't have to do this alone," Nia said. "Come over. We'll eat, talk, anything." "I need to finish this first," Imani replied, her voice steady though her throat burned. "But dinner tomorrow, promise." She hung up, her chest tight with a pain she wouldn't name. She opened her laptop, the screen's glow harsh, and drafted an email to the firm's staff. "Emergency meeting, 5 p.m. today. Critical updates." Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what came next. She was dismantling a life she'd built, brick by brick, with Mark. But she was also reclaiming it. At the office, she stood before her team, 30 faces staring back in the boardroom's sterile light. Her pantsuit was a shield, her voice a blade. "We've uncovered serious financial and ethical violations by Mark Thompson," she said, her words clipped, deliberate. "Effective immediately, he's suspended pending investigation. This firm is now Williams Design Group. Our mission, creativity, integrity, remains unchanged." A murmur rippled through the room, but no panic. Eyes met hers, some shocked, others nodding, knowing she was the firm's heart. A junior architect, Javier, spoke up, voice hesitant. "Dr. Williams, we're with you. Always have been." Her lips twitched, a flicker of warmth breaking her steel. "Thank you," she said, her gaze sweeping the room. "Let's build something unbreakable." Back home, she called a moving service, her voice calm as she instructed them to pack Mark's things, suits, watches, his polished shoes, and store them off-site. The penthouse was hers, designed by her hands, her vision. She wouldn't let his shadow linger. Her phone buzzed again. Mark texting, "Imani, please. Let's talk. I can explain." Her fingers tightened, the screen blurring for a moment. "Explain? You stole my soul and called it business." She deleted the message, her breath sharp, like cutting glass. A memory surfaced, Mark laughing as they sketched late one night, his hand over hers guiding the pencil. "We're unstoppable," he'd said. Now that laughter was a lie, his touch a theft. Her chest ached, a hairline crack in her resolve. But she pushed it down. She called Nia again, her voice softer now. "I hurt, Nia, more than I thought I would." "You're human," Nia said. "Feel it, but don't let it own you. You're stronger than this." "I know," Imani whispered, her fingers brushing her cheek, dry but burning. "I'm building a fortress." By dusk, the movers arrived, their efficiency a quiet violence. Mark's closet emptied, his presence stripped away. When they left, the penthouse felt lighter, but her heart didn't. She stood by the window, the lake's dark expanse reflecting her silhouette. A knock came, security handing her a note from Mark, scrawled in haste. "I'm at the door. Let me in." She nodded to the guard, who delivered a small box of Mark's essentials and the storage address. The door closed, final, its click a lock snapping shut. Mark's voice echoed faintly outside, pleading, then fading. Imani's fingers curled, nails biting her palms. He's out there, thinking he can charm his way back. But she was done with his blueprints, his promises. The penthouse was her fortress now, its walls her design, unyielding. Her phone lit up. Olivia texting. Board's on your side. Legal's moving fast. Imani's lips curved, not a smile but a promise. The fallout was hers to control, and she'd build something new from the rubble, something Mark could never touch. Imani stood in her office, the city's skyline a jagged pulse against the dawn. Her fingers gripped a pencil, its lead scratching across paper, tracing the curve of a tower that twisted like a flame toward the sky. Without Mark's shadow, his insistence on safe, profitable projects, her mind was free, a blueprint unrolled to its fullest. The betrayal still stung, a raw ache in her chest, but she channeled it, her lines bold, defiant. He thought he could cage my vision. Her jaw tightened, the pencil snapping in her hand. She tossed it aside, her breath sharp, and reached for another. A memory flickered. Mark's voice, years ago, dismissing her double helix staircase. Too risky, Imani. Clients want practical. She doubted herself then, softened her edges to fit his frame. Now she saw it, his fear of her brilliance, his need to dim her light. Her fingers moved faster, sketching gardens that spiraled up the tower's facade, solar panels woven like threads. This wasn't just a building. It was her rebirth, a structure born from ruin. Her phone buzzed. Nia checking in. You sleeping yet? Her friend asked, voice thick with concern. Sleep's overrated, Imani said, her lips twitching. I'm drawing. You're unstoppable, Nia replied, a smile in her tone. But don't burn out. You're more than your work. Imani's throat tightened, her fingers pausing. I know. I'm finding balance. She hung up, her eyes burning, not from tears but from the hours spent sketching. She wasn't just rebuilding her firm, she was reclaiming herself. A new email pinged, Sterling Group, the real estate giant she'd used as bait. Dr. Williams, we're impressed by your portfolio. Can you pitch for our Chicago skyscraper? Her pulse quickened, a spark igniting. This wasn't a trap anymore. It was her chance. She dove into the design, nights blurring into days, coffee cups piling up, her office a chaos of sketches and models. The tower took shape, a spire of glass and steel, its curves defying gravity, gardens breathing life into its core. This is mine, she thought, her heart pounding. Not his, not hers. The pitch came on a crisp morning, the Sterling boardroom stark, its long table a battleground. Imani stood, her voice steady, her slides projecting her tower, a beacon of resilience. This isn't just a building, she said, her eyes locking with each board member. It's a statement. From collapse, we rise. Her hands trembled slightly, but her gaze didn't waver. The room fell silent, then erupted in applause, the CEO standing first. It's yours, Dr. Williams, he said, his handshake firm. Her chest swelled, not with pride, but with purpose. Back at the office, the news spread like wildfire. Williams Design Group was the name on every architect's lips. Imani's face gracing Architectural Digest cover, captioned, The Visionary Redefining Chicago. Her team cheered, Javier raising a coffee mug in toast. To you, boss, he said, grinning. Imani nodded, her smile tight but real, the weight of their trust grounding her. Meanwhile, Mark's world crumbled. His lawsuit claiming Imani's server access was illegal collapsed under Olivia's evidence. Emails, payments, clause 37B. The judge ruled in Imani's favor, his gavel a final nail. Chloe, fired for complicity, vanished from the industry, her name a cautionary tale. Imani didn't gloat. She didn't need to. They built their own ruin. Late one night, she stood on the construction site, the tower's skeleton rising against the stars. The air smelled of dust and steel, her boots crunching on gravel. A memory hit, Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin, rebuilt after betrayal and fire. He rose from ashes, so will I. Her fingers brushed the blueprint in her hand, its lines a map of her survival. But beneath her strength, a whisper lingered. What if this isn't enough? Her heart stuttered, the ache of Mark's theft still raw. She shook it off, her eyes lifting to the skyline she was reshaping. Her phone buzzed. Olivia. You've won the firm, Imani. It's all yours. Imani exhaled, her breath visible in the cold. Good, she said, her voice low, final. She wasn't just redrawing the skyline. She was redrawing herself, each line a defiance, each curve a promise. The city was hers, and she was only beginning. Imani's breath fogged the glass wall of Olivia Vance's office. Chicago's skyline sprawling below, like a blueprint of her triumphs and scars. The room was stark, all polished wood and steel. The mahogany table between her and Mark, a battlefield littered with legal documents. Her fingers rested on her lap, steady, though her pulse thrummed like a taut wire. Mark sat across, his once crisp suit sagging, his face etched with lines that aged him a decade. His eyes, once bright with charm, now darted, pleading, a man clinging to a collapsing scaffold. Imani's chest tightened, not with pity, but with the weight of endings, her heart a bruised foundation still standing. Olivia slid the divorce papers forward, her voice crisp. "It's straightforward, Mr. Thompson. Sign, and this ends cleanly." Mark's hand hovered over the pen, trembling. "Imani," he said, his voice raw, cracking. "Can we talk? Alone?" Her jaw clenched, a muscle twitching. "Talk?" "You spoke my designs into her hands." She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his, cold as the lake outside. "There's nothing left to say, Mark. You made your choices." His shoulders slumped, but he pressed on, voice low, desperate. "I was scared, okay? You were too much, too brilliant. I felt like nothing next to you." His words hung heavy, a confession ripped from deep. "I thought if I controlled the ideas, I'd matter." Imani's nails bit into her palms, the pain grounding her. "You didn't just betray me, you envied me." A memory flashed, his hand over hers sketching their first project together, his laugh warm then. Now it was ash. "You didn't have to steal," she said, her voice low, sharp as a draftsman's blade. "You could have built with me." He flinched, eyes dropping to the papers. Olivia tapped the table, impatient. "The evidence is ironclad, Mark. Emails, payments, Clause 37B. You misappropriated intellectual property, funneled funds to Miss Sanders. Illinois law splits marital assets equitably, but your misconduct voids your claim to the firm." Mark's hand shook, the pen slipping from his fingers, clattering softly. Imani watched, her heart a storm held back by steel. She remembered their wedding, his vows promising partnership, now broken like a flawed beam. "He thought he could dismantle me." She reached for her pen, her movements deliberate, signing her name with a flourish. Bold, elegant, unshakable. The ink gleamed, a final line in her design. "Your turn," she said, sliding the papers to him, her voice steady but edged with ice. Mark stared at the page, his breath uneven. "Imani, I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I loved you. I still—" "Don't," she cut in, her tone a wall, her eyes burning. "Love doesn't steal. It builds." She stood, her chair scraping softly, her silhouette sharp against the glass. "Sign it, Mark, or the court will." He grabbed the pen, his hand unsteady, scrawling a signature that looked like a wound, jagged, faint. Imani's chest loosened, not with relief but with closure, like a door locking shut. Olivia gathered the papers, her nod to Imani brief, approving. "It's done," she said. "The firm's yours, Dr. Williams. Full control." Imani nodded, her throat tight. She turned to leave, her heels clicking, each step a hammer driving nails into a new foundation. Mark's voice followed, faint, broken. "Imani, please." She didn't pause, didn't turn. The door closed behind her, a soft thud sealing him out. Outside, the city hummed, its pulse hers. Her phone buzzed. Nia texting, "You good?" Imani's fingers hovered, then typed, "I'm free." Her lips curved, not a smile but a spark, a promise to herself. The skyline stretched before her, towers she'd shaped, dreams she'd reclaimed. But a whisper lingered. "Will this heal the ache?" She pushed it down, her jaw tight. "I don't need to heal. I need to create." She stepped into the elevator, the descent smooth, her reflection in the mirrored walls a woman forged anew. Mark's confession echoed, his envy a crack she'd never seen. It didn't weaken her. It sharpened her. The doors opened and she walked into the city, her city, ready to draw lines that no one could erase. Imani stood on the 80th floor of the Ascension. Her tower, the city's skyline, a tapestry of her triumphs woven in glass and steel. The sun sank low, painting Lake Michigan gold, its light catching the edges of her desk, where blueprints curled like promises. Her fingers traced the window's cool surface, her breath steady but heavy with the weight of a year rebuilt. The ache of Mark's betrayal lingered, a faint scar beneath her skin, but it no longer bled. She was no longer the woman who'd stood in the glass box, her heart a fractured beam. Now she was the architect of her own horizon, unyielding. Her office was a sanctuary, its clean lines her design, every angle a defiance of the past. She closed her eyes, the hum of the city faint through the glass. A memory stirred. Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin, reborn from fire and betrayal, its scars part of its strength. I'm not so different, she thought, her lips twitching. Not quite a smile. The pain of Mark's theft, Chloe's ambition, had carved her, but it hadn't broken her. It had taught her to build on a foundation of trust in herself. Her phone buzzed, Nia's voice breaking through. You in that tower again? Dreaming too big? Her friend teased, warmth softening the words. Imani's laugh was soft, real. Always. But I'm grounded, Nia. Thanks to you. You grounded, Nia snorted. You're a skyscraper girl. Just don't forget to live a little. Imani's throat tightened, her fingers curling. She'd started therapy after Nia's gentle prodding, unraveling the knots of anger and loss. It hadn't erased the scar, but it had taught her to carry it. I'm living, she said, her voice steady. Promise. She hung up, her gaze drifting to the lake, its waves a rhythm of renewal. The past year had been a crucible. Mark's lawsuit crushed, Chloe's name erased from the industry. Williams' design group now a beacon for visionaries. Her face on Architectural Digest wasn't just a cover, it was a declaration. Yet beneath her strength, a whisper lingered. Is this enough? Her chest tightened, the question a crack she couldn't quite seal. She pushed it down, her jaw firm. It's enough for now. A new buzz. Her assistant, voice crisp. Dr. Williams, Louvre Abu Dhabi on the line. They want to discuss a new exhibition wing. Imani's pulse quickened, a spark igniting. Her fingers brushed the blueprint on her desk, the tower's lines a map of her resilience. Put them through, she said, her voice clear, commanding. She turned to the window, the city's lights flickering to life. The call connected, a voice accented and eager. Dr. Williams, your work on the Ascension is extraordinary. We'd like you to design our next wing, a space that breathes culture, history, future. Her heart swelled, not with pride, but with purpose. Tell me your vision, she said, her pen already moving, sketching arcs that felt like wings. The conversation flowed, her mind alive, weaving ideas that stretched beyond Chicago, beyond the pain of a year ago. Mark's shadow was gone, his envy a faded blueprint she'd torn apart. Chloe's ambition, once a threat, was now a footnote. Imani was the story, her designs the words. As the call ended, she stood, her reflection sharp in the glass. A woman not of vengeance, but of creation. The skyline glittered, each tower a piece of her soul, her strength. She thought of Nia's words, of therapy's quiet lessons. You are enough. Her lips curved, a true smile, small but fierce. The scar of betrayal was there, but it was part of her design now, a reminder to build with care, to trust with caution, to create without limits. She turned from the window, her heels clicking softly, the sound of promise. The Louvre project was a beginning, not an end. The world was waiting, its horizons hers to shape. Her fingers itched to draw, to build, to leave marks no one could steal. This is my foundation, she thought, her heart steady, her eyes bright, and it's unshakable.